Hey there guys, welcome to the Musings of Maverick channel. I'm your host Maverick, and today we are starting a new series, Ya Boy Kongming, otherwise known as Paripi Kome. So, before we start, in case any of you guys are new here, let me just give a quick introduction to my channel. So I'll typically always divide my videos into 3 different parts. At the beginning will be my introduction or recap section, as I am doing right here. In the middle will be my blind reactions, and finally I will follow it up at the very end with what I call my Musings section, which is kind of like a review section where I talk about the episode, I talk about the series and any sort of references that they might have made, especially for a series like this one, which is kind of sort of historical based but also musical based. I think there is a lot more to talk about, but you know, that remains to be seen, right? And don't worry, I'll timestamp all of the sections below, so you can just jump to whichever part that you please. So with that out of the way, and to my old viewers and fellow subscribers, well, yes, I did listen to you guys, so I am going to be starting the series. You guys recommend to me saying that it's an underrated gem, so, you know, I'll give it a shot, right? Because honestly, this is, if I went through this entire season's anime, right? Looking through like what caught my interest and whether I want to look at it or not, or watch it or not. And this one, you know, just on first instinct, I discarded as crack. All right, because you know I am actually a huge historical fan. I study history. I'm also a big military fan as well. So you know, the Three Kingdoms period to me is like right up my alley. I grew up on games that were Three Kingdoms themed. You know, I love the Three Kingdoms period. I love the Sengoku period in Japan as well. I play a lot of these military simulators or historical simulators. So I do consider myself somewhat knowledgeable about this period, right? At least more than the average person. And you know, the concept of I could totally understand if there's a sort of like isekai themed anime going on where someone from the current world gets isekai'd back into isekai'd back to the Three Kingdoms period, right? Like that's been done before. I feel. Yeah, it's been done before in a lot of different works. I can totally understand the appeal of that, right? But taking someone from that period, which Kongming is, and putting him in the modern world, like that just to me, like I have a lot of question marks. But anyways, I mean, let's just talk a little bit about this, right? So first of all, from the title, Paripi, you know, in the original Japanese title, Paripi actually means party boy, so I'm not entirely 100% sold on this translation, Ya Boy Kongming. I feel like a better translation would probably be Party Boy Kongming, which, you know, party people, party boy, I feel like that is kind of a, you know, that's kind of like a direct one-to-one translation. And of course, Kongming is referring to the legendary strategist of the Shu Kingdom in the Three Kingdoms, Zhuge Liang, otherwise known as Zhuge Kongming. Now, the reason why he's called Kongming is because that is, I believe the English translation for it is called a courtesy name, right? So, because, you know, ancient people, ancient Chinese and all that, you're not supposed to just call other people directly by their given name, so you have to have like another name so people can call you that, so that they don't offend you and whatnot. And so that is Kongming. So his actual name is Zhuge Liang, but you know, what other people call him is Kongming, Zhuge Kongming. And Zhuge is the family name, of course. So anyways, you know, I do love this guy. He is one of my favorite characters from the Three Kingdoms period, alongside Kakao and Zhao Yun as well. But no, I feel like that's for another time. I actually like literally have like books, you know, historical records, you know, that delve into historical records of this guy. And I'm not talking about like the novel stuff, like Romance of the Three Kingdoms stuff. I'm talking about actual historical text, which goes into this guy's life and all that. But you know, putting that aside, so anyways, that is the main, that's the titular character. We're going to be following his adventures in the modern world. What about the rest of the so-called fundamentals, right? Like who's making the anime, the directors, and so on and so forth. Well, to be honest, like that was also another part where I wasn't 100% sold on this particular anime. I mean, it's made by PA Works. I'm not exactly like the hugest fan of their works and whatnot. And also the director for this is, you know, the director for Fairy Gone, which I did watch on this channel, and boy, was that an experience. And not exactly in the positive kind, right? But, you know, some other things going for it is the sound director, Iida Satoki, which is the sound director that actually works a lot with Maeda Jun, right? Maeda Jun, right? The very famous light novel or producer, Angel Beats, Charlotte, all that. So he's the sound director that works directly with him in the anime adaptation of all those works. So at least from the music side, I think things are relatively in well hands, and that's important considering this is a music anime, right? So at least it's got that going for it. Otherwise, in terms of the seiyuu, Hondo Kaede is voicing the main character, the main female lead. The male lead, I honestly have no idea who he is. I think he's kind of like a newbie to the industry. Hondo Kaede, though, she's I wouldn't say she's my favorite, but I really do respect her talents and abilities. And it's funny because I was just talking about this with my good friend and fellow reactor Mad Lad like a few days ago, and that Hondo Kaede, I feel like, is one of the most underrated seiyus in this industry. Not in terms of her roles, but in terms of her recognizability. Like, for even for people who follow seiyus or are fans of seiyus, but they wouldn't necessarily be a fan of Hondo Kaede, even though, if you look at her resume, it is super impressive. Like, literally every season or every other season, she has a main role, right? Not just, in an anime, but literally one of the main characters. So, really, really well received in the industry. Not quite as popular or famous personally, right? But anyways, so yeah, that is basically all I have to say in regards to the fundamentals. And I guess at the end of the day, we just have to jump into it and see if it's any good. So let's get right to it. All right, let's begin in 3, 2, 1. Play. Right. Again, a very fun period. Right. So this is when yeah, Ya Boy Kongming. Yeah, during this time the emperor was actually Liu Bei's son, who people call like the incompetent, basically. Incompetent. Really everything was being done by this guy here, by Kongming. Those were the 5 generals, I believe, that was on screen there. Zhang Fei, Guan Yu, all those. Most of them had died by this point. Okay. Yeah, boy. Like, what? Okay. I oh, okay. Welcome to this life. Alright, so what kind of a style are they going to draw in? Oh, this would be like in his, I guess you could say, prime. Actually he did not, he was sort of like a scholar, if you will, a local scholar who, in those days you just studied, right? You studied texts, you educated yourself. So he didn't really come out and become like a chancellor or become the strategist for the Shu kingdom. Or heck, at that time it wasn't even a kingdom until quite late in his years, like 30 something, near 40, if I remember correctly. Oh. Well, this is yeah, Halloween, I'm guessing. Tequila. Imagine if you're like walking on the streets partying, and then you encounter this character who seems to be in character, right? Okay, and I guess this is the female lead. Maybe? I'm not sure. So the music here is more in terms of club music? By the way, when you reincarnate, don't you typically like have a new body, not bad. But I mean, people typically don't do that in clubs. They're trying to party, girl. And like disregarding like if you know anything about it, it's like he's trying to hit on her, right? This is totally like she's just like he's had one too many. Which to be fair, he has. Like, I'm not sure if people of the old could take tequila shots like that. Yeah, yeah. And I'm guessing, like, Kongming has, like, a huge hangover or something. Yeah, you do not want to be drinking tequila straight from the bottle like that. Oh, Shimai, the military strategist for Wei, whose son later became, the guy who conquered the entirety of China. Alright. Fan service in the very first episode. I like how. But typically it's guys picking up girls. Like who just goes around and like picks up a middle-aged dude out? Up. That's stupid. They had mirrors at that time. About that Kongming. I wouldn't say the average Japanese would know about Juga Kongming though. The average Chinese would probably know. Average Japanese, they've got to be like a fan of the period or something. Or I guess they can like I don't know play Dynasty Warriors. Why don't you first ask like what year it is? Well, you certainly are smooth, Kongming. uh... Blockchain? That's gonna be a hard one. Oh yeah! I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. Yeah, and later, Shu was conquered by Wei. I would say, yeah, Shima. So Kongming's greatest like enemy, if you will, Sima Yi, died before Kongming, but his descendants later became the ones who conquered the entirety of China. Like in a lot of literary works or games or whatnot, they like to make Kakao and the entire Wei side as sort of like the uh, the antagonist and whatnot, and whereas Kongming is the protagonist or something like that. But honestly, like I have huge respect for Kakao, for the Sima, the Sima characters and whatnot, Sima Yi and his sons and all that. But that's the boring stuff. Let's get to the actual music and whatnot. Oh, did you write this song yourself, Aiko? Damn, is Hondo Kaede? Yeah, that's those are the like the five generals. Although I think the middle one was Liu Bei. Actually, Kongming, do you understand English? Probably not, right? Why music of all things? Like, I still don't understand like why we needed to have Kongming to have a set to have this anime. Oh my god. Did you guys see, like, when he was born and whatnot? Oh, that's one of his greatest failures. Oh, Masu was a by the book kind of guy. You know, he had good theoretical knowledge, but little practical experience. Yeah. Yeah, he got himself surrounded. No, that's kind of revisionist. Yeah, that's so they're bonding over this. This dude is actually a good, like a good historical buff as well. Yeah. I can talk a little bit about that at the end of this if you guys are interested. It could, because again, it could be considered as Kongming's greatest blunder. So now he's working as a bartender? What's BPM? This guy. uh... I think it's more impressive that he can, he can remember all those names. That's the most impressive part about everything. Ingredients and change, that's easy. Yeah, but it doesn't matter like how good your music and your voice is. You really shouldn't be singing here. Yeah. Go on the streets. That's I guess that's an ad comparison. Kongming's not the type to betray people. By the way, I'm pretty sure this is probably Shinjuku, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, okay. Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. I don't get. Like, what kind of club is this? Why? You have one right here. Although technically he wouldn't know what a fan is because that's kind of like an English loan word. But oh yeah, he's talking about the supposed story of how Liu Bei visited him 3 times to ask him to join his forces. Oh. This is Kiben Jojo by Mihamaru GT. Although, I think this is a remix version? Actually, I think this is a cover. Well, this is also a pretty, I wouldn't say legendary song, but many people in, like, probably most people in Japan know of this song. It was pretty huge back in the, oh, that's like, what, 15, 20 years ago? Yeah, yeah, yeah! No, Jojo. Oh, actually, it's Kongming singing it. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. It's come on, say, yay, yay, yay. Ah, that translation there. Oh, so there's nothing else? I thought. Ah, alright. 96 Nico. Oh, that's the sing voice. I see, I see. Alright, I'll see you guys after this. Alright guys, that was first episode of Ya Boy Kongming, and no, it's decent, interesting and decent comedy and whatnot. I wouldn't really say at this point like it's an underrated gym though, so I guess maybe it'll pick up more later on, but at the very least, you know, the music's nice, the comedy is funny, and I actually like that they made a lot more historical references than I originally expected. I think the fact that there is an owner here who also enjoys the Three Kingdoms and is willing to, because you need someone to play off that knowledge, right? Again, like I said, normal people would not have knowledge of whatever Kongming is talking about. He's going to make a lot of his, even if he like makes a lot of historical references, it wouldn't really be fun if nobody could play off like what he's actually saying. It would be kind of like an inside joke that only us, the viewers, and only a certain subset of viewers would know about, and that really wouldn't do well in terms of a comedy or pacing perspective. So the fact that there's actually someone here who understands what Kongming is talking about and is able to push him forward, like and you know, catch these references and also throw out some references as well, that's going to be important for this character going forward. Because otherwise, like I kept saying at the beginning of this episode, like why, you know, you could, the story of like an aspiring singer or an aspiring songwriter trying to make it in the music industry, like that's, you can make that story, and I don't really see the value of infusing a sort of isekai story and taking a character such as Kongming from the Three Kingdoms. Like, I don't understand like what value it's supposed to bring into this kind of story. So by incorporating some of this stuff here, and certainly in the future episodes, I'm hoping that they also add a lot more of these references. Although again, you probably need to balance it, right? Making lots of historical references would probably give guys like me a lot of, you know, we would be tickled by it and say, oh, I understand that reference, and you know, have a good laugh at it. But on the other hand, you might alienate a large portion of your fan base or viewer base, because like I said before, like most people would not know of things like this, especially for Japanese. Like come on, this is still mostly for a Japanese audience, right? Most Japanese, you know, probably do not have as good knowledge of the Three Kingdoms as they would have for their own Sengoku periods or something like that. So that's why, you know, that's part of why like I'm so confused by this. Like, I would have thought even if they wanted to do something like this, it would have made more sense actually to take a general or you know, one of the key characters from the Sengoku periods within Japan history, rather than Kongming from Chinese history, which is also like much further back in time than the Sengoku period is, right? But yeah, decent so far. One other thing I do want to mention here before we get into like the historical stuff is that the singer, you know, the girl that's actually singing all those songs, I was originally kind of surprised, because even though Hondo Kaede can sing, I'm not sure if she sings that good. So at the end with the credits there, it seems that she is not the one singing. They actually have another singer here who is taking, like, she's called 96 Neko. Not really sure who she is, but anyway, she's the one who's doing the singing voice, which I honestly hate. I wish they would just allow the seiyus to sing for themselves, right? But you know, I get Hondo Kaede herself is a pretty decent singer as well. I think she would have easily handled these songs as well, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, we can only, yeah, it's unfortunate, but like I said, it is what it is. Anyways, beyond that though, beyond that, what else do I want to talk about from this episode? Yeah, so also not quite sure like what music genre or what exactly they're going to do. Definitely feel like one thing they need to do first is stop singing in the club. Like, I feel like her musical style, Echo's musical style, and the types of songs that she likes to sing and whatnot does not suit the club at all. I would much rather prefer that she just, you know, do what we call street performance, right? Just get out there on the streets, start singing on the streets and whatnot, and maybe, you know, do some cover songs, do some original songs, and get opportunities to maybe become like a singer. Heck, even in a bar would be better than in a club, right? So that's probably what Kongming is going to advise her going forward, but you know, we'll see about that, right? I'm sure that we'll be getting some other military references in regards to how you need to gather your troops and consolidate your position or things of that sort. And you know, Okay, I am intrigued. All right, I am intrigued on how they will do this going forward. So consider my interest peaked. So, beyond all that, like I said in the episode, I was going to explain a little bit about the references made. Now, obviously, like the Sima clan, Sima Yi, I don't really want to. There's not really too much to talk about. Sima Yi was basically the military strategist for Wei, who many consider to be like Kongming's biggest rival, because Wei is the like sort of big baddie within the stories, right? Although some would argue actually it's Zhou Yu from the Wu Kingdom, but that's kind of beside the point. Later on, Sima Yi did die before Kongming, and his sons and his other descendants gradually took over the entirety of Wei. They overthrew Kakao's and his lineage as well. They became the sort of emperors of the Wei Kingdom, and they were the ones who managed to unify China. And then there's another like very chaotic period of history after that, which we'll not get into here. So they made references to that. We saw in some of the scenes where we had the like for instance during the scene when Eiko was singing on her bed, right? That little love song there. Kongming, there was a scene there with like 5 different where Kongming was sort of like reminiscing about the past, and then we saw 5 people appear on screen. I think those are supposed to be like the 5 generals. I mean, I can definitely recognize Zhang Fei and Huang Zhong. Probably Zhao Yun is there as well, and then I guess since there's 5, I'm assuming the other 2 are Ma Cao and Guan Yu. But maybe one of them is Liu Bei. I don't know. It's the most obvious references are Zhang Fei and Huang Zhong. The rest, it's kind of hard to say. But beyond that, then the biggest and I guess most obscure reference that they have here would definitely be the story where of Masu, right, where Kongming is talking about this with the owner of the place. And by the way, they're actually playing Go there, which I don't really think Kongming knows how to play, question mark. But I mean, whatever, because I'm sure that Kongming would I don't think he would know how to play Go, actually. But and then anyways, that's kind of beside the point. I'm going off on a tangent. So the Masu reference is probably the most obscure reference to normal people, because it's also because that situation also happens like quite later on in the like sort of Free Kingdom story. Like everybody knows about the Yellow Band rebellions, and which is the start of everything. People know about Lu Bu, right? The famed warrior. Like people might know of him from Dynasty Warriors or some other kind of game or media. And obviously we know about like when all the famous generals were alive and they were all fighting each other, right? But this Masu situation actually happened like way later on, like near the end of everything, and near the time when almost to when Shu would eventually be eradicated by and defeated by the Wei. So after that was also around like Kongming would die later on in like maybe around 10 years after the Masu incident. So basically, a little bit of context here, a little bit of history lesson for you guys. And by the way, if I do get anything wrong, do correct me, because I'm going at this from an enthusiast standpoint. I'm not really doing any research right now. This is coming directly from my memory. So a little bit background here. After Liu Bei died, Kongming was basically the chancellor, who was, again, Liu Bei had a son who was quite incompetent, so everything was basically done by Zhuge Kongming, by Kongming. And then he launched a lot of invasions up north. You could call it, you could call it crusades if you want. So he basically launched a lot of these military offenses up into Wei, and sort of like mobilizing the entire nation to try to fight against Wei and defeat them and unify China once again, right? And this one, I believe this happened during the first crusade there. Or the first offensive there, the very first one that Kongming launched, and things were going quite well. Chang'an is actually a very important city back at those times. It's sort of like the staging platform to eventually get to Luoyang, which was the capital at that point in time. So they were actually doing swimmingly well at that point, but then something came up, and anyways, long story short, there was like this important choke point position that needed someone to Kongming needed someone to hold, right? And so he appointed Ma Su, who was his, like they say here, sort of his favorite apprentice, directly working and learning under Kongming, because he was also, rather than one of those generals, he was also more of the intelligence type, right? The sort of strategist type there. However, Ma Su had a big flaw, and indeed, from historical record, it seems that lots of other people knew about this as well, which is that many people consider Ma Su, yeah, he says the right things, right? But he has a lot of book knowledge, meaning, sure, he has full grades in school or whatnot, he does well on tests, but does he actually have the ability to apply this to the battlefield, to real-world situations, right? And so what happened actually during that particular battle there was that Ma Su, he was in charge of basically securing that area, right? And then there was an opposing army there as well. So Ma Su actually made the decision to take all his army up onto sort of like a hillside, if you will, under the objection of some of his other subordinates. Basically, the reasoning that Ma Su gave is that, hey, because we have the high ground, right? Hey, we can make a Star Wars meme here. I have the high ground, so I will win. If I launch an offensive, the hill will aid in my charge and attacks and whatnot. And so that's the justification he gave for camping up on the hill, which again, in theory, on book, seems to be a good plan, right? But so the enemy, I forgot who was leading the Wei army at that time, but it was actually a pretty competent commander as well. And basically, the Wei commander of that army there decided to basically just encircle the hill. So instead of actually going up and trying to fight uphill and whatnot, he decided to lay a siege to them. So he encircled them, and the Shu army led by Ma Su did not have any supplies, right? They were completely surrounded. And so once their supplies dwindled and they were unable to break out, eventually they had to completely surrender, and that was the end of that. Ma Su was later released, but as was mentioned here, he was executed for his inabilities under orders from Kongming. And so that ended that. The sad thing, I guess, if you are a Shu enthusiast, is that, the later offenses never really got as far as this first one. So this really had, you could even say it was a pivotal point within history, right? If Ma Su had not failed there, who knows? Maybe Kongming actually had a chance of fighting against Wei and maybe eventually defeating them and conquering the entirety of China. Which, I honestly, if you do believe that, I also feel like that's kind of unrealistic considering the manpower and the talent that both sides had, but that's kind of like beyond the scope of this particular video here. So anyways, quick history lesson here, because I definitely did not expect them to be referencing this particular part of history, which even from Three Kingdoms, then, like, you would need to understand Three Kingdoms, and you would actually have to be a big fan enough to actually not only it's not only like the fun stuff, but also this more latter, this sort of like end game period of history of Three Kingdoms period in order to know about this. So consider me like impressed that they actually made this reference. But anyways, long story short, this was definitely a failure on Ma Su's part, but which ultimately will be reflected as a failure on Kongming's part, because Kongming is the supreme commander at that point of all the Shu forces. He was the one who appointed Ma Su there. So in some ways, you could also say that the responsibility solely lies on him as well. And according to some accounts, like his health started deteriorating like after this event and so on and so forth. But that is also kind of you can believe what you believe. But anyways, that was kind of like an impromptu history lesson here, but it's fun and kind of sort of in my area of expertise, so I did want to like share that a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit too serious considering the subject matter, but hey, they were the ones who brought it up, right? So can't blame me. So anyways, that is it for this first episode. I will try to continue to watch more episodes within the week, so I can quickly catch up to the latest episode, and then I can just release the episodes, my videos directly after, alongside the episodes. But that'll depend on my schedule and whatnot. Let me know if you guys, do you guys enjoy this sort of like history references and whatnot? Let me know. But obviously, I'm not only going to be talking about this part. I'm also going to be talking about the actual music, or whatever kind of other references or stuff that we see later on. And I guess I should acknowledge that Aiko is quite cute. Maybe. I would say she's quite cute. Good that we have fan service immediately in the first episode. I'm guessing maybe we can expect a little bit more fan service starting in the later episodes as well. Something to look forward to. Alright, and that is it for now. Thank you guys. I will see you guys in the next one. So stay tuned, guys, and bye-bye.